Hi everyone. I'm talking to you from Cambridge, in the UK, where it's getting colder by the day, both in terms of temperature as well as the political situation and the economy. This time we are going to talk about the big tech crash of 2022, where so many of these big tech companies in the West, whether it be Amazon or Meta or Zoom, lost billions and hundreds of billions of dollars. And in India, where down rounds started happening in startup funding, where tech IPOs, celebrated tech IPOs like Paytm and Zomato, disappointed, where big tech companies like the big services companies put a hiring freeze. And so there has been this big tech crash, which somehow is reminiscent of the dot-com crash in 2000. And, when the dot-com crash happened, Paul Graham, who's a tech guru and evangelist, wrote this brilliant article saying that what the bubble got right. And actually, if we were to kind of look at that article, what he said was that the stock market investors were right about the direction of travel, even if they were wrong about the speed of the journey. Now, if we were to look at this recent tech crash, what is it that maybe this tech crash got right? I came upon an article in the Financial Times by John Thornbill, who's the tech editor, and he talked about 5 things that this tech crash got right from a global context. The first was that data started getting valued. The second was that even while the world was becoming more and more nationalistic, it was e-globalizing, with 63% of the world connected to the internet. The third was that work has changed, and according to him, changed for the better. Fourth was this massive energy transition from fossil fuels to electric, led by Tesla. And fifth was that even while crypto has crashed, at least we are asking the right questions about decentralization and democratization of the web with Web3. Now that started me thinking as to whether we could have the 5 things that this tech crash got right for India, and whether they were the same 5 things or not. So if I kind of go back and look at the 5 things that this tech crash got right for India, the first is, similar. I think even in India, data started getting valued the way it should be. And so the IPO valuations of Paytm, Zomato, etc. were more for the data than for the money they were making or not making. In fact, we took this a little further in India to the societal level, where, for example, Nandan Nilekani talked about how this creation and flow of personal and public data from Indian citizens would actually make Indians data rich before they became economically rich. And so we could monetize this data or leverage this data to become rich rather than an intermediary platform like Facebook or WhatsApp or Twitter or Google doing so. And that actually brings me to my second point, and which was that even though this tech crash happened, what rose was the enormous population scale digital infrastructure, public digital infrastructure like Aadhaar, UPI, the upcoming health stack, the upcoming e-commerce stack, again, in large parts led by Nandan Nilekani, which has kind of united India. So even while India seems to be riven with political, social, geographical divides, India seems to be united by digital. And the third is that what this tech crash brought was similar again to the world where work changed again. But in the Indian context, I think it's great that we are talking of distributed work because now tier 3 cities, tier 4 cities can have talent coming up. Women who might have a problem doing full-time office hours can now be employed. And so, and while there's been a backlash from Wipro, etc., on moonlighting, I think on the whole, this trend is good. Fourth, there's been a transition to electric also here, but again with an Indian twist, where we are talking about 3-wheelers and 2-wheelers. Almost 95% of the electrified vehicles in India, EVs in India, are not cars, but 2 or 3-wheelers, and those are what are going to lead the electric revolution. And they are actually the most polluting of vehicles. And so if they all become electric, I think it's good for the country. And the last bit, which I think the tech crash got right, is not uniquely an Indian trend, but has roots in India, which is this much ballyhooed rise of the Indian CEO. Indian CEOs now rule tech companies, whether it be Google or Microsoft or IBM or Adobe and a bunch of others. A lot has been written about this, but I believe that it was the turbulence of the pandemic which brought out the needs for skills, values, and coping mechanisms that are uniquely Indian. Now, you might argue that all these CEOs are Indian in origin, but they are, US or other citizens. But the interesting part is that many of them are first generation Indians, and so they have grown up with the values and beliefs that were uniquely Indian, and I think that has contributed to them rising to the very top. I will definitely write more about this phenomenon maybe in the next episode, and we'll talk about that. But my hope is that even as we look at this silver lining in this massive gloom of this tech crash, I hope it's these leaders like these that bring us out into the light again. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Would love to hear more from you. Write back to me on this channel or on LinkedIn or elsewhere. And look forward to meeting you again next week.